So last year, Pitt brought in Alabama transfer Eli Holstein. In the age of NIL, you can imagine he was given the considerable amount of money to come, and he actually played very well. Now, what happened? I was at spring ball. We're watching, and it didn't look like the same Eli Holstein. And the player that stood out to everybody was the freshman Mason Heintschel. In fact, I walked away and two of my friends play college ball, and they go, that's the best QB we saw that day. But we said, you know what? Eli's still the starter. Go from there. So Pitt goes and beats Duquesne, and then they beat Central Michigan 61-9, 45-17. Fairly solid wins, right? Then we get to our arch rival, West Virginia. And, I don't want to completely blame it on the quarterback, but the quarterback play was subpar, to say the least. And the team for two games in a row against West Virginia and Louisville looked, I hate to say lifeless, but they basically did. In particular, there was a 17-point lead against Louisville that they blew. And at that stage, I do a podcast every Sunday with my friend JJ Kitchen and my friend Eric Dudick that does the Bird Cave podcast. We talk Pitt, and it's become very popular. And at that stage, we were eulogizing Coach Narduzzi because it didn't look like he would make it past this year. He's done a lot of good for Pitt. I want to emphasize that. He's been here over a decade, but it looked like we were at the end of the run. They bring in freshman Mason Heintschel and immediately destroy Boston College, 48-7. And the kid looked like the next Dan Marino, or in our case, more recently, Kenny Pickett, who was incredible for Pitt. And it looked like a completely different team. I can't explain it, but the team fed off this kid's talent, enthusiasm. And the next game was at Florida State. Now, Florida State was bad this year, but there's still a lot of talent there, and they were really revved up to get their first ACC win. We go down, beat them there, and really from there won every game with the exception of two, and that's Notre Dame in Miami. And that Miami game at the end, you win that game, you're in the ACC championship. I promise you they would have won that game. They were rolling. And right now they'd be playing someplace else. So I think that's where maybe some of the frustration comes into play. You had that ACC title almost in hand, and it didn't work out. And really, a lot of it comes down to the two stupid losses in the beginning of the season with a quarterback that just, I don't know if he got the yips or what occurred, but it just fell apart for him. He came off the rails. But the Mason Heintschel, and the fans will see him play on Saturday, has just been remarkable. It's like the reincarnation of Kenny Pickett. But if I had to really compare him to an NFL quarterback, only with the moxie and everything, he reminds you a lot of Baker Mayfield. So that's the season as a whole. And I will say, what Notre Dame, Pitt has been a top 20 team. They're not a top 10 team. So if you're asking why they lost to Miami and why they lost to Notre Dame, you saw substantially, I thought, better talent on the lines take those games over. But outside of that, they have been they've been in the top 20 multiple times this season. And when everything comes together, and I would encourage your fans, if they want to look at some of the Georgia Tech highlights, this team could really be formidable. Georgia Tech was expecting to play in the ACC championship. We went in and literally went up at Georgia Tech 28-0 before they scored their first touchdown.